everyone that's here, or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. My name is Dr. Jason Galea, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk to you with my colleague, Dr. Peter Papadopoulos, about our program HeadSet. And today specifically what we're looking at is talking to people about how we use data science and data analytics to understand and improve mental performance. We've been fortunate with HeadSet Sports to have an incredible data science team that we've been able to pull together over the past few years. And each one of these people are sports enthusiasts who really understand the back end of sports from a coaching perspective, performance perspective, but now the importance of analytics. Analytics has become so huge. And, Pete, I don't think I told you this, but over the weekend, thinking about our presentation today, I'm sitting back thinking of what we're going to talk about and how we're going to formulate words. And all of a sudden, what comes on the TV is Moneyball. And it's amazing how that movie has formulated so many insightful thoughts of how we look at data and analytics as we look at sports and performance. But with that mindset, and if any of you have seen that movie, it falls into line with a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about data tracking in sports. We're going to be talking about the importance of mental tracking. We're going to be talking about HeadSet data that we compile and how we report, as well as future considerations that we're going to be investigating, and hopefully wrapping up with some questions that you may have. So with that, if at any point in time you have any questions, any of our people who are here today, please jump in, chime in, feel free to interject and share a little bit about yourself as well as how we can maybe help you and your team or your program. I want to introduce my colleague, Peter Papadopoulos. Peter is currently a university professor at York, as well as University of Guelph Humber and Sheridan. He specializes in the area of sports psychology, and he works with some of the biggest athletic programs and sports clinics in the city of Toronto. He's a former Division I athlete, and he's also one of our co-founders here at HeadSet. I myself are just the mirror image of him, just not as good looking or as intelligent. And I am fortunate to be down here in sunny San Diego, where I too work with athletes at Division I level, professional level, as well as the Olympic level. I'm very fortunate in that in San Diego, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of athletes that are training at the Olympic Training Center here, not too far from where I live and where my office is. Today, we're going to be talking about tracking data in sport. And specifically, what we're going to be looking at some of these big companies that are in front of you right now and how our data is able to sync with data from programs such as Whoop, First Beat, and Catapult, as well as how we can add to what they're doing and take it a next step further when we look at the mental side of sport. Pete, feel free if you have anything you want to jump in.
Yeah. So why don't we? Thanks, Jay. So why don't we get started in a great introduction to our topic? And as you mentioned, that data tracking in athletics and sport has taken off. It's quite the area, enormous in regards to the amount of groups that are using it, the amount of data that's being collected. As you mentioned, here are just some of the groups that are focusing a little bit more on data tracking, but on the physical side. So you on the left and right, we have like GPS systems that collect data with athletes. Now they're wearable devices, right? So we have these wearable devices. I didn't think we'd be there that quickly where you would look into online or for watching TV, these games and competitions where these athletes are taking off their GPS systems, and right away after I'm thinking a little bit more about soccer or European football, where they take the actual GPS device off and go right to tracking that data, right? So it's one that's omnipresent in sport now. First Beat is a heart rate variability, but they'll look at and they'll track how far you've run, how fast you run, your endurance, your power, the strain And all these data points with the physical tracking help the sports science individual or group understand solutions that need to be made on the data. And they're still trying to figure it out in regards to the physical side of what all this data means and the combination of data, but it's there. And then people are creating solutions as data scientists, and a lot of it has to do with recovery. You hear a lot about recovery now that you didn't a year, 2 or 3 ago. So all this data that we're collecting, we're hopefully making better decisions. But that kind of leads us to what Jay was thinking in our work together, Jay and I and the group at HeadSet, is that there's not many people or groups that actually track the mental skills component. And you'll hear on those same broadcasts how important the mental skills are, how important mental training is. And sometimes it is the area where people say, well, that's the most important, right? But in regards to the understanding the mental skills, the development and tracking of it, there's not really much there that we can lean on. And then if we can't lean on the data, then we can't create these customized solutions for the athletes that we're working. So we're getting a lot more data, but it's really one-sided in regards to the physical aspect. And this one aspect in regards to mental skills and mental development that for many of us are so important, there really isn't this data to be able to move forward with. And as Jay mentioned, to connect, right? Really look at training in athletics and sport as being more holistic and having way more data points to be able to connect together. So this is the real missing part. And as we started HeadSet a few years ago, this was always something for Jay and I, and there's many other people at HeadSet who are not here, that we really wanted to have a data-driven application to be able to create solutions. We started off more in mental, and we are focused on mental, but are there some opportunities to be able to connect the mental skill data with some other data points to try to understand the athlete in a more robust way? And just a little bit, Jay mentioned about HeadSet. So HeadSet is a data-driven program. Jay and I were ones who started it off, but we have so many people at HeadSet who have helped us out. So there are other psychologists, other coaches, athletes who have helped out along the way. But then we have a data science team over the last couple of years that we've added to be able to look at the data, extrapolate, understand, and then help us create better solutions for our application and services. At the very bottom of this PowerPoint slide, there are 5 different areas that we primarily focus on. And these will be the ones that we talk about a little bit more today. So we call them pillars, these 5 pillars, these 5 mental skills and attributes that we focus more of our time on. There are a few more that we collect data on and we create solutions for, but these are our main 5. So one is awareness, so bottom left. This is your awareness of how your body feels, but also your strengths and development areas. We have stress management on top of that. We kind of call it at times regulation. It's being able to handle your emotions, handle pressure and stress. Confidence, top right, is more about your belief. So your individual belief on your abilities and capabilities. Resilience is being able to bounce back, but also to move forward for our resilience. And motivation is a little bit more for us intrinsic motivation, even though we look at external forces, and those are really important and are connected to intrinsic motivation. For us, the internal or intrinsic motivation is a little bit more important for us in the work that we do. So these are these 5 pillars. And in regards to what we do with them, so for HeadSet, we track the data, but then we come up with gauges and a point system. So this allows athletes to be able to understand what they need to work on, where their points are going to. So they're able to see their development over time, a little bit more of that gamification piece, but we do it through these 5 different kind of data points that go onto our dashboard and gauges. So one are monthly assessments. So every month in HeadSet, you get a new assessment that looks at those 5 pillars. That's every month. So January 1st, every one of our users will get our monthly assessment. And then after you get this monthly assessment, we track the areas that you need to work on. We focus a little bit more on the lower ones in regards to scoring. We also track games and practices, but the mental skills, right? So after a practice, we debrief you with a mental skills debrief. After games, we track your mental skills for how you believed or perceived you performed mentally. So for practices and games, we debrief afterwards. We have weekly updates. They focus on those 5 areas that we tell, those 5 pillars, but we also look at burnout. And then we also have what's called a pre-competition checklist, where once we know you have a game in the system, we help you get ready for the game. And all of these 5 are robust and they're data points. So I just kind of showed you like what the data might look at the end. So this is our assessment that happens every month, but they're data points. So every time you click a button on your phone, on your tablet or computer, numbers are generated. So we have an abundance of numbers. So over the past year, up until about last month, and getting ready for our presentation today, we looked at our data from the past 11, 12 months. And here is just one before we get to it. We also are able to connect data for our teams as well. So we'll be talking about individuals quite a bit today, but we also have a data tracking for our team and able to create solutions for our team. But as I mentioned, here's what our analysis, what we looked at this year. And this is where Jay and I will talk about it. We'd love to get your thoughts on this as well, but this is where we focused our time and the results we had. So the first bullet point is that we have, in looking at our data, that our mental strength score or mental skills, that they can be developed. So that's a great thing. So when we looked at the data over the last year, we found that when people work on their mental skill development, their mental skills assessment, that assessment score every month, that develops and increases. Fantastic. So in looking back to the development of HeadSet, we go, whoa, okay, parts are working. When people do work on HeadSet, their assessment month by month is improving over time. Fantastic. I'm going to jump to number 3, then go back to 2. But what we also found out when we looked at groups that we worked with, not all athletes and teams follow a linear trajectory and a significant difference month by month. What we often have found this year with the groups and individual athletes that we looked at for their data is that they start HeadSet, they start doing the workouts, they increase, but there will be a point in time during their season where their scores will be similar. They'll plateau, they still go up, but plateau. Sometimes they go down, and then afterwards they go up. When we first looked at this with our data science team, we went, oh, it's maybe not working like we thought it did. And then we kind of stepped back and went, no, it's working exactly how it should work. That it's collecting these nuances and responses, because no athlete or team will go through a season in regards to an increase in mental skills every single month. There will always be a dip. And we found that in Jay and I debriefing with our group that this happens in private practice for us. We don't have athletes that, because they see us or go through a season, that they will consistently go up and just continue to rock it up in regards to their mental skills. There will be a time during the season where the mental skills will stay the same or they'll decrease. What Jay and I have mentioned several times to our clients through HeadSet and private practice in our group is we want the decrease to not go down significantly. We want it to then understand it and then go back up and work on it. So it's solutions based. So, okay, it's decreasing or similar, but how do we get back to increasing it? We found that our mental workouts are working, which is great. So we have mental, like a prescription for athletes based on their assessment every month. But when we looked at different groups, not all of the interventions worked the same for different groups. Younger groups, so 14, 15-year-olds, we found that certain experiences that they liked as workouts were different from older groups. So university college groups, minor pro groups, or pro groups. But every group is different in regards to how they consume the information. So just to kind of recap, the first 4 bullet points that mental skill development worked for us, it didn't always go up. And then people consumed it differently. And then the scores also we saw would go up again, which is like, great, this is how kind of real life works for mental skill development, including with our application. The final two, we presume that it would happen, but it actually did come within the data. So the bottom two are the days leading up or the day of performances. So second to last bullet point, our pre-competition feeling. So when we check in with athletes a few days before on their 5 pillars, how they feel in the 5 pillars actually influences how they felt after they performed. So how they felt before they performed a couple days before actually influenced their mental skills when they debriefed them. So an example would be if someone was higher in confidence before, they felt confident after they performed. If they felt lower on regulation, they may have a lower regulation score in regards to their debrief after they performed. So there was a link between how you feel before mentally with our 5 pillars and how you perceived you performed after your game or competition. And then lastly, pre-performance oriented as well was that pre-performance checklist. So we have a checklist and we help athletes get ready for performances. The individuals who did pre-performance checklists and got ready before the game through HeadSet, they increased their mental strength score for their games. So there was a connection between getting ready before and how you perceive you perform during your competition, which was, we presumed it, right? We thought that it was, but to feel it come through and be statistically significant was pretty important. And as Jay and I were getting ready yesterday for today, we went, well, yeah, like you need to. And we know that not a whole lot of athletes have a structured routine the days leading up to competition. So that was really cool to see. But Jay, I'm going to pass it back over to you to add some pieces.
I think the bullet point that you just shared right now about the pre-competition routine for young athletes is massive. And for any of you that are working with youth athletes, I know today we have Caitlin, we have John, Maureen, and Rudy. Are any of you working with young athletes, say teenagers to college? If any of you could jump in, I'd love to know. And the reason for it is, I know when we're working with those younger to older teenagers, we're constantly looking for that environment opportunity that will allow that athlete, for him or her, to create a sense of comfort. And I know when working with young teenagers, I will often say, listen, if you need quiet time, let's create that quiet time. If you need that visualization time, let's create that visualization time. If you need music, let's create that music opportunity. There's a lot of times when we're trying to help young athletes find what they're looking for, there's a sense of confusion even on our end. And if we can express to them and teach them that taking that time to visualize, mentally prepare, check those different emotions that can affect your performance, it's massive. Rudy, please share with us a little bit about who you're working with and maybe some of the situations that you have to deal with. I see something from Caitlin too. Caitlin says, yes, working with high school girls in their off season between cross country and track. That's a huge scenario that takes a lot of mental preparation because you're dealing with athletes that can easily get lost in their head, especially in the world of cross country. Rudy, I see that you've chimed in a note to me that you're working with 15 to 17-year-old girls. That's a challenge all on its own. Maureen, you're working with fencers and some modern pentathlete. I'd love to know what a modern pentathlete is. So if you could jump in and share, that would be great. And John, you're sharing that I work with a span from middle schoolers to young adult, all cyclists. John, we have a lot to talk about. For almost 10 years, I've worked with a professional cycling team based out of San Diego. So if we ever can get a chance to connect, I'd love to connect with you and share with you some of the things that I'm doing with the teams that I work with. One of the teams you may know is a team formerly known as Team Jelly Belly. So if you get a chance to connect, I'd love to talk with you. So please, let's talk. Modern pentathlete, swim, fence, ride, show jumping. Oh my goodness. And laser shoot. Wow. Maureen, I would love to be a fly on your shoulder with these athletes. This is incredible.
Hey, can we just kind of bring it in and see what are maybe some of the pain points
Yeah.
in regards to, are there any kind of challenges or pain points? Maybe it's connected to the information on the data, maybe it's not, but are there any pain points that you have with your athletes or challenges in regards to their prep and mental skill development? And feel free to unmute yourself. Everyone's muted right now, but feel free to unmute yourself. We have the chat function that is up.
Hi there. This is Caitlin Kowalski. One of my pain points with some of the high school girls that I work with in their off season is find that they're highly motivated girls, which is awesome. But it can end up being almost backfiring a little bit because they're so motivated that they tend to push themselves too hard in the off season, which then they risk, peaking too early. So I have to kind of help them pull on the reins a little bit and keep them from pushing themselves too hard. So, because obviously if they're going 100% all year round, they're going to either burn out mentally and physically or one or the other, or risk peaking too soon in their during their actual seasons. So I find that it's great that they're highly motivated and they want to, they want to be the best they can be. But I find that they have a hard time kind of turning it down on the off seasons because they know they need to work hard, but there is kind of a limit there because they're not competing during that time. So that's kind of one of the pain points I have with my high schoolers. It's not a bad thing. I love that they're so motivated.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of add to you have me thinking about swimmers as well from people that I work with. You have this ultra drive off season, during the season, gymnasts as well come to mind.
Right.
But I just want to add in to what we were talking about earlier, and just a thought, and just kind of bringing it back to the group would be, now physically recovery is it's almost like a new word, right? That recovery is okay, and athletes have a hard time physically. Mm-hmm. But if we can bring that, like now they're with the data science, they're saying, well, your data shows that you should take some time off. And now athletes see it and go, okay, I'll trust the sports scientists, and okay, I'll take a little time off. I got to get back out there, but I'll believe so-and-so. The mental skill part, I now bring into to work in regards to the conversation with athletes. So I'll just say it's time to emotionally recover. It's time to cognitively recover, like take a break. And it's okay, we'll get back to it, put some timelines on it, but let's take some time off. And it'll be interesting, and we'll get to a further slide in a couple of minutes, would be that the goal for us now is to start to connect the mental skills with the physical skills. So maybe there is like, okay, physically it says this, mentally, okay, really it's time to take a break, right? And that person goes, yes, okay. But for me personally in the work recently, it's okay to recover. And then athletes are starting to respond to it a little bit more from the physical side, but when you kind of pair it with it, it seems like that's at least getting some traction with the younger athletes. But yeah, I think that for coaches, sports psychs, mothers, fathers, that's a challenge overall.
I'll throw in a few tidbits here, Caitlin. I can tell you a little personal story here where I struggled with that myself in college. And I didn't have a set pattern or routine to prepare. And what I end up realizing with the help of a sports psychologist is that coming into games, a game that would happen at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, mentally and emotionally, I had started my game prep at 8 o'clock in the morning. Come game time at 2:30 in the afternoon, I was mentally and physically spent to the point where when I got out there for a warm up, I was physically fatigued 5 minutes into warm up. My body was run down. My mind was thinking, oh my God, I'm scrambling. I'm playing safe right now. I'm playing in desperation mode right now. Why do I feel so drained? And this ties right into what Peter's talking about. It took me a long time with help to realize, hey, listen, if you don't calm yourself down or find a pattern that works for you, you're physically going to feel like you've already participated in 2 races before the main race even starts. So there's a lot that we can do to help you. So anyhow, I just wanted to share how I could relate to your scenario personally. Pete, if you want to move to the next slide, we can.
Yeah, and we'll go to the next slide, but and this is for others too. This is great to have conversation. This is what we want during our presentations, is to have that connection in regards to our experiences. But throwing it back out to the group, we'll definitely move on. But if there are any additional parts to add to Caitlin's or some of the challenges that you have with your athletes, feel free. But if not, we'll keep on moving.
I think we should move on. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So in the data points that we see here, we'd love to ask each and every one of you if you could send us some feedback at some point in time as to what kind of data points do you think would be most beneficial for you in your sport. It could be something along the lines of, how do I help my athletes prepare before a competition so that I know that they're at their optimal best? And I might need to do this in a relaxed way. Is there a way that we could help you put together a program for some of your athletes that might help you even monitor some of the data points that you're looking to instill within them? So for any of you, again, that have not had the chance to hop on our site, download our app, feel free to do so, because we have a free 30-day trial. So please, before I forget or we forget to throw that in there, spend the time, shoot us an email if you have any questions as we move on. But yeah, Pete, we should move forward here.
Sure. So here's what's next for us, and these are our 2022 goals. So with our continuous data collection and what we're finding from different groups, our goal is for this year is to find very specific opportunities for customization based on the information of our clients and customers. So some examples would be, is there a customization for the different ages? Possibly, right? Maybe there's a different version for the 18-year-olds versus the 18 plus group, just an example. Is there a cross-country oriented group here? Like as Caitlin mentioned with her athletes, right? Is there a cyclist one? So as we are collecting more data, can we create a different experience for our particular users and future users? And this is very exciting, right? Very, very exciting. Number two, we want to connect our mental skill data to physical data points. And we're going to start with a couple of opportunities. One is an application called MPC Fitness. So we're working with people in fitness and mixed martial artists, but we want to expand things just to see what are the connections between their physical experiences through their data tracking physically and their mental skill data. So we're in the process. We're actually starting to collect data there. So that'll be very interesting to be able to move forward. Maybe that's another conversation, a webinar in the future. The next one, we haven't started collecting data yet, but we are going to be in the new year. It's called Fourth Frontier is the company, but it's called Frontier X. And Frontier X is an EKG machine that is able to read heart rate variability, your heart endurance and stress, and it's for endurance athletes right now. So it looks like we're going to focus on marathon runners and half marathoners, maybe some cyclists as well. So that might be, if we can maybe link up with some of our cycling folks today, but endurance athletes. So physical, heart rate, and the outputs, and then our mental skill data. We are going to connect to other cognitive variables. We're looking at reaction time and decision making. There's a couple of groups that have reached out to us that I think we're going to move forward with as well for number 3. 4, and this is going to be a future webinar that we have to kind of figure out. But now the area of mental health for athletes is prominent, and rightfully so. But for us, it's about, okay, how do we look at the continuum from mental performance to mental health? Because today we're talking about mental performance, right? But that kind of continuum, when does the mental performance part maybe stop, and then the conversation and work on mental health begins, right? And then for us at HeadSet, like, what are the data points for our pillars where we had to start talking about more mental health? And again, presumption on our part, but maybe it is resilience. So if your resilience is lower, maybe your self-confidence is lower with scores on burnout, just an example, maybe that's the trigger for us. And we go, okay, maybe it's not about mental performance now, but maybe it's about talking about mental health. So maybe we switch the app from application to, all right, here are some mental health solutions, or do we reach out to our mental health providers and start to bring them in? With those 4 that were mentioned, it truly is about better solutions. For us, it's all about better solutions for our customers. But Jay, sorry about that. I think I cut you off there.
No, it's actually a really, really good tie-in. What you were just saying, Pete, about mental health and finding better solutions, because that point ties right into something that John just shared with the group. And he shared with everyone that I have several athletes that disassociate on race day. I work really hard on connecting with them and getting them focused, but I would love to have a better process and playbook for them. What a great time to what you're talking about right now. And my response was, we can help with this. Plus, we can provide data on your athletes before race day, so that you're not feeling like, moments before the gun goes off, we need to replug in with them and make sure that they're at their best and they're completely focused. Wouldn't it help if we could kind of get to these points of issue, shall we say, that are hindering preparation, that are hindering performance beforehand?
Yeah.
And having some experience with what race day is like, it can be very chaotic. It can be very chaotic. You have several hundred racers out there, and bright lights, big sounds, a lot of distractions, and it's hard to get guys tuned in if they're slowly floating away and being distracted, shall we say. So John, again, I sent you my email. Love to get on a call with you and maybe share some war stories and also some successes, and see how we can possibly help you.
Yeah. I mean, this is a nice time as we're talking about just what's possibly next, but maybe kind of put it back onto the group as well, is that, are there any aspects that we can start to think about to collect data on? Are we missing anything here as we take on the upcoming year in regards to our goals as a group and organization?
Yeah.
If not today, please feel free to, and we have our contact information at the end too. So
yeah, this is great. This is great. Maureen, not to throw you under the bus, but I definitely would love to spend some time chatting with you and your athletes that you work with, because I find what you do fascinating, to be quite honest with you. And
I would love to do that. That'd be great.
And I'll be honest with you, Maureen, Peter and I have had a lot of crazy scenarios that we've come across in the past couple of years of pulling this together. But one of the things that's been the most rewarding for me is meet people such as you that are introducing sports that I've never even heard of. And I'll be quite honest with you. One of the things that I find works so well with the athletes that come into our world that I don't know much about is being completely transparent with them and saying, I have no idea what the heck you do. Can you please teach me? And before you know it, that's how the rapport scenario is building. So please, I would pay cover charge to spend time with you for a little bit to learn more about your world.
But before we wrap things up, and we'll have a final time to ask any questions or to elaborate on any of the parts that we talked about today, but we have a couple of giveaways. And one is, and I mentioned it earlier, so we're pairing up with a physical app that has strength and conditioning and nutrition. And we're kind of pairing our services. One is for that data collection that we mentioned earlier, but also for the applied work. So it ends on December 24th. So we're having a draw for this giveaway for an entire season that a group or team will get the MPC Fitness app, as well as HeadSet together for a season, right? So here we're collecting a little information from people. We're just asking some questions on mental skills and physical skills and development. But if you are interested for this, here's the link, and I'll send over the link. We'll follow up with everyone with a recording of the session, but I'll also send this one more time in regards to joining this giveaway. And it ends on December 24th, and then closer to the new year, we'll let that group know which one. And then the final one, this is for us and for the people who are here today. And this is a recent one for us, but we are going to have a few giveaways after the new year. But we were approached by an electrolyte company. It's called LMNT. They are this electrolyte company that focuses on no sugar added, right? So that's a pretty important part to their values and philosophy. And they wanted to share, for us to share what they have to our webinars, to our social media groups. So we'll put you all into the raffle. We'll pick out a name from the people who are here today and then send that out to you, right? If you're okay with it. So we'll get a hold of people for the person who wins. So it's a drink pack overall. And then finally, it's just some information about us, how to get a hold of us. This is us on social media as well. They can get a hold of us from our Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We have a monthly newsletter as well that if you're interested, we can add you to. And then, as Jane mentioned, we have a 30-day free trial of HeadSet for yourself, your athletes, if they want to jump on and just take a look overall. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to get a hold of us. And here's, I know Jay shared our emails, but that'd be great if you have any questions.
I'm typing away freebie.
Yeah, I hear you. I didn't want to interrupt there.
Yeah.
But as we come to that's the end for our data and what we have coming up. But are there any questions, thoughts, comments?
John, I didn't get a chance to hear your voice, but I know that you're working with teenagers as well, and would love to help in any way we can with your team, your program also. So please feel free to reach out and let us know how we can help as well. Middle schoolers to adults, I know you're working with. So again, please let us know how we can help. Pete, thanks for sharing with all this great information today. I know for a lot of you, at times it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but I'd love to just share this one last point with you, and that it's this. In working with athletes and coaches, specifically the old school coaches, when we're able to show them, physically show them data on mental preparation and developing mental skills, it's amazing to see people's responses. You know, a lot of what Peter shared with you earlier in terms of some of the companies and programs that we're collaborating with that do physical testing, physical skill development, strength development, even recovery. we can see the changes in the human body. We can see the changes in terms of performance, strength, and we can track them all. But as Peter mentioned earlier, no one has done what we're doing, and that's to try and bring that visual data collection of how important it is to work on the mind and preparing to be your best. And when we're able to do that, it's amazing, again, to see these coaches and athletes completely dive in and really believe everything that they've been feeling is important and affecting them for so long, and when what the mind sees, the body believes. So hopefully we can help more and more of our young athletes and coaches and programs see what our mind believes. So with that, I'm not too sure if there's any questions that we may have, but please feel free to reach out to us. And on behalf of Peter and I, happy holidays, and we hope to.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice seeing everyone. Happy holidays.
All right.
We'll be in touch soon.
Take care, everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.